The cellar dweller, a pact with pure evil. It was a beautiful, warm summer day when the Thompson family moved into their new home. They were a family of 5, with 2 parents and 3 children. The house was large and grand, with a beautiful garden and a big backyard. It was perfect for their growing family, and they were excited to start their new life there. As they unpacked and settled in, they discovered a door in the basement that they hadn't noticed before. The door was old and rusty, and it seemed to lead to a small room that was tucked away in the corner of the basement. Curiosity got the better of them, and they decided to investigate. When they opened the door, they found a small room that was barely big enough to fit a single bed. The walls were made of rough stone, and the air was musty and stale. It was clear that the room had not been used in a very long time. As they were examining the room, they heard a faint scratching sound coming from behind the wall. It was a sound that was barely audible, but it was there nonetheless. They tried to ignore it and chalk it up to the old house settling, but the scratching continued day after day, and it became louder and more persistent. The Thompson family tried to forget about the strange noises and went about their daily lives, but they couldn't shake the feeling that something was off about their new home. The scratching sounds continued, and it seemed like they were coming from inside the walls. One night, the family was awakened by a loud banging sound coming from the basement. They all ran downstairs to investigate, and when they got to the basement, they found that the door to the small room had been torn off its hinges. It was then that they saw something that they could never have imagined. In the small room, there was a figure huddled in the corner. It was a creature that looked like a mix between a human and an animal, with long, sharp claws and razor-sharp teeth. Its eyes glowed in the darkness, and its skin was covered in thick, matted hair. It was the source of the scratching sounds, and it had been trapped in the room for years. The creature was emaciated and starving, and it had been driven mad by its captivity. It lunged at the Thompson family, and they all ran back upstairs in terror. They tried to call for help, but their phones were dead, and the creature seemed to have cut off all communication. The family was trapped in their own home, with a creature from their worst nightmares lurking in the basement. They tried to escape, but every time they tried to leave, the creature would block their path. It was as if the creature had some kind of supernatural power that kept them trapped inside. Days turned into weeks, and the family was slowly losing hope. They were running out of food and water, and they were trapped in their own home with a creature that seemed to be getting stronger by the day. The creature seemed to be biding its time, waiting for the right moment to strike. One night, when the family was at their weakest, the creature made its move. It attacked them with a ferocity that they had never seen before, and they were unable to defend themselves. The family was never seen again, and their house was abandoned. Years later, a group of curious teenagers decided to explore the abandoned house. They found the door to the basement, and they ventured inside. As they were exploring the basement, they heard a faint scratching sound coming from behind the wall. It was a sound that was barely audible, but it was there nonetheless. The teenagers tried to ignore the sound, but it grew louder and more persistent with each passing moment. They followed the sound to the small room in the corner of the basement, and when they opened the door, they found themselves face to face with the creature that had driven the Thompson family to their demise. The creature had grown even stronger over the years, and it was now a fearsome and terrifying sight. The teenagers tried to run, but the creature was too fast, and it caught them one by one. They never stood a chance against its razor-sharp claws and teeth. The creature continued to live in the small room in the basement, trapped inside the walls of the Thompson family's old home. It was a warning to anyone who dared to enter the house, a reminder of the horrors that lay within. Years passed, and the house became a legend among the townspeople. No one dared to enter the house, and it became a place of fear and superstition. The creature in the basement became known as the cellar dweller, a name whispered in hushed tones among the bravest of the townspeople. One day, a group of paranormal investigators decided to explore the house. They were intrigued by the stories of the cellar dweller and wanted to see if there was any truth to the rumors. They set up their equipment in the basement, hoping to capture some evidence of the creature's existence. As they were investigating, they heard the faint scratching sound coming from behind the wall. They followed the sound to the small room, and when they opened the door, they found the creature staring back at them with its glowing eyes. The investigators tried to run, but the creature was too fast. It caught them one by one, and they became its latest victims. The cellar dweller continued to live in the small room in the basement, trapped inside the walls of the Thompson family's old home. It was a warning to anyone who dared to enter the house, a reminder of the horrors that lay within. The house remains abandoned to this day, a dark and ominous presence in the town. The cellar dweller continues to live in the basement, waiting for its next victim to enter the house. It's a reminder that some things are better left untouched, that some mysteries are better left unsolved. The cellar dweller remains a legend, a story that is told in hushed tones around campfires and whispered in fear in the darkness of the night. Despite the warnings and rumors surrounding the house, there were always those who were foolish enough to enter, driven by curiosity or a desire to prove their bravery. But none who entered ever returned, and the cellar dweller claimed another victim. Over time, the townspeople began to fear the house even more, and it became a symbol of evil and darkness. Some claimed that the creature was not just a simple monster but something more sinister, an embodiment of the evil that had taken root in the town. Rumors spread that the Thompson family had been involved in dark rituals and had summoned the creature from the depths of hell. Some even claimed that the family had made a deal with the devil and that the creature was the price they had paid. Those who dared to approach the house at night reported hearing strange noises and feeling an ominous presence lurking in the shadows. The air was thick with a palpable sense of fear and dread, and some swore they could see the glowing eyes of the cellar dweller watching them from the darkness. The townspeople tried to forget about the house, to pretend that it didn't exist, but the presence of the cellar dweller lingered on, a constant reminder of the horrors that lay within. Years passed, and the house became a cursed relic, a blight on the town's history that no one wanted to remember. But the cellar dweller remained, trapped in the basement, waiting for its next victim to enter the house. And so, the legend of the cellar dweller lives on, a chilling reminder of the darkness that lurks in the shadows, waiting to consume those foolish enough to seek it out. The house stands empty and abandoned, but the presence of the creature remains, a reminder that some secrets should never be uncovered and that some doors are best left closed. As the years went by, the cellar dweller grew stronger, its hunger for human flesh increasing with each victim it claimed. The creature had become an entity of pure evil, fueled by the dark energy that permeated the house and the town. No one knew how the cellar dweller had come to be, but rumors continued to spread that it was the result of a dark pact made by the Thompson family with a demon from the pits of hell. The entity was said to have been summoned forth by the family's twisted desires, its power and malevolence growing with each human sacrifice made to appease it. As the years passed, the townspeople became increasingly superstitious, convinced that the house and the creature within were cursed. Many claimed to have seen the glowing eyes of the cellar dweller peering out from the windows or heard its inhuman cries echoing through the night. But despite the fear and terror that the house inspired, there were still those who were drawn to its dark allure. Some were thrill seekers, eager to test their courage against the evil that lurked within. Others were desperate souls, searching for something that they could not find in the light of day. One group of teenagers decided to explore the house, thinking it would be a fun way to spend a Friday night. They had heard the stories of the cellar dweller, but they dismissed them as mere superstition. They laughed and joked as they made their way through the house, their flashlights illuminating the dark corners. But as they descended into the basement, they felt a chill run through their bones. The air was thick with the stench of decay, and the walls seemed to be closing in around them. They heard the sound of scratching coming from the small room in the corner, and the hairs on the back of their necks stood on end. As they cautiously approached the room, the scratching grew louder, more insistent, and then, suddenly, it stopped. The door to the room creaked open, and a pair of glowing eyes stared out at them from the darkness. The teenagers tried to run, but the cellar dweller was too fast. It caught them one by one, dragging them back into the small room to be consumed by its insatiable hunger. The screams of the teenagers echoed through the house, a chilling testament to the evil that lurked within. And so, the legend of the cellar dweller grew even more horrifying, its dark power spreading like a cancer throughout the town. The house stood as a monument to the depravity and malevolence that lay hidden beneath the surface of everyday life, a constant reminder that sometimes the darkness cannot be ignored or denied.